Most people think Saint Lucia is just another tropical island. They're wrong. This tiny nation was fought over so many times that it became known as the Helen of the West Indies. It produced 2 Nobel Prize winners, despite having a population smaller than many towns. It has a secret language, rival flower societies, a drive-in volcano, and a mountain that most tourists never even discover. The truth is that Saint Lucia may be one of the most underrated countries on Earth. And today, we're going far beyond the beaches and resorts to uncover 13 fascinating facts that reveal what makes this island truly unique. Some of these facts are surprising, some are unbelievable, and 1 or 2 sound completely made up. Let's get started. Fact 1. The country named after a woman. Saint Lucia holds a distinction that very few nations in the world can claim. It is one of the only countries named after a woman. The island is believed to have been named after Saint Lucy of Syracuse, a Christian martyr who lived during the Roman era and became known for her faith and courage. Most countries are named after geographical features, indigenous words, tribes, kingdoms, or influential male rulers, making Saint Lucia's name especially unusual. This small Caribbean nation stands out on maps, not only because of its tropical beauty, but also because of this rare historical connection. Saint Lucy is remembered in Christian tradition as a symbol of light and perseverance, and her legacy lives on in the country's name centuries after her death. Historians still debate exactly when European sailors first began using the name Saint Lucia, but records suggest it became established during the early colonial period. What makes this fact even more remarkable is that many visitors arrive on the island without realizing the story behind its name. In a world of nearly 200 countries, only a handful carry names directly linked to women, placing Saint Lucia in a very exclusive group. It is a small detail that reveals how history, religion, exploration, and culture can come together to shape the identity of an entire nation. Fact 2. The island, Britain and France fought over 14 times. Few places in the Caribbean have a colonial history as dramatic as Saint Lucia. During the 17th and 18th centuries, the island became one of the most fiercely contested territories in the region, changing hands between France and Britain an astonishing 14 times. Both empires recognized the island's strategic value because of its excellent natural harbors and its location along important trade routes connecting Europe, North America, and the Caribbean. Whoever controlled Saint Lucia gained a valuable military and commercial advantage in the region. As wars erupted across Europe, their effects were often felt thousands of miles away in the Caribbean, where islands like Saint Lucia became prizes to be won or lost. French settlers introduced their language, customs, and culture, while British rulers later imposed their own systems of government and administration. This constant tug-of-war created a unique blend of influences that can still be seen today. Although English is the official language, many cultural traditions, place names, and local expressions have strong French roots. The struggle for control was so intense that Saint Lucia earned a reputation as one of the most desirable colonies in the Caribbean. By the early 19th century, Britain finally secured permanent control, but the centuries of rivalry had already left a lasting mark on the island's identity. Modern Saint Lucia is therefore not simply a former British colony or a former French colony. It is a fascinating combination of both worlds, shaped by generations of conflict, cooperation, and cultural exchange. Fact 3. Why Saint Lucia is called the Helen of the West Indies. One of the most fascinating nicknames in the Caribbean belongs to Saint Lucia, which is often called the Helen of the West Indies. The nickname comes from the famous character Helen of Troy from ancient Greek mythology, whose beauty was said to be so extraordinary that it sparked the legendary Trojan War. Historians and writers began comparing Saint Lucia to Helen because European powers fought repeatedly over control of the island, much like kingdoms fought over Helen in the ancient story. During the colonial era, both France and Britain considered Saint Lucia one of the most valuable possessions in the Caribbean. Its fertile land, strategic location, and excellent harbors made it an incredibly desirable prize. As a result, the island became the focus of numerous military campaigns, naval battles, and diplomatic negotiations. The comparison to Helen of Troy was not meant to suggest that the island caused conflict itself, but rather that its attractiveness made powerful nations willing to fight for possession of it. Over time, the nickname became deeply associated with Saint Lucia and is still used today in books, articles, and discussions about the island's history. What makes the title especially fitting is that Saint Lucia remains one of the most visually stunning places in the Caribbean, with lush mountains, volcanic landscapes, rainforests, and dramatic coastlines. The nickname therefore reflects both the island's remarkable beauty and its turbulent colonial past, making it one of the most poetic and memorable national nicknames anywhere in the world. Fact 4. From bananas to tourism. For decades, bananas were the economic lifeblood of Saint Lucia. During the 20th century, thousands of Saint Lucians worked in banana farming, and the fruit became the island's most important export. Small family-owned farms covered the fertile hillsides, and entire communities depended on the industry for jobs and income. Special trade agreements with the United Kingdom gave Saint Lucian bananas privileged access to European markets, helping local farmers compete internationally despite the island's small size. Everything changed when global trade rules shifted during the late 20th century. Preferential agreements were reduced, and producers from larger Latin American countries could sell bananas at much lower prices. Hurricanes and tropical storms also repeatedly damaged crops, highlighting the risks of relying on a single industry. Faced with these challenges, Saint Lucia began transforming its economy. Today, tourism has overtaken agriculture as the country's primary source of income. Luxury resorts, cruise ships, ecotourism, and adventure travel now attract visitors from around the world. While bananas remain an important symbol of Saint Lucian heritage, the island's economy has successfully adapted to a new era, proving that resilience and reinvention are essential for small nations in a rapidly changing world. Fact 5. 2 Nobel laureates born on the same day. Sometimes reality produces coincidences so extraordinary that they sound like fiction, and Saint Lucia offers one of the most remarkable examples. The country's 2 Nobel Prize winners, Sir Arthur Lewis and Derek Walcott, were both born on January 23rd. Although they were born in different years and later achieved fame in completely different fields, they shared the exact same birthday. Lewis would go on to become one of the world's most influential economists, while Walcott became one of the most respected poets and playwrights of the modern era. The odds of a tiny island nation producing 2 Nobel Prize winners are already incredibly small, but the fact that both men happened to be born on the same calendar day makes the story even more astonishing. This unusual coincidence has become a source of fascination both within Saint Lucia and abroad. Every year, January 23rd is celebrated as a national holiday known as Nobel Laureate Day, honoring the achievements of both men and their contributions to humanity. Schools, cultural organizations, and government institutions often organize special events to commemorate their legacy. The holiday is not only a celebration of academic and artistic excellence, but also a reminder that greatness can emerge from even the smallest corners of the world. For many St. Lucians, the shared birthday of these two extraordinary figures is more than a coincidence. It is a symbol of national pride and a testament to the island's ability to nurture exceptional talent. In a country known for its beaches and tropical scenery, this intellectual and cultural achievement remains one of its most remarkable stories. Fact 6. A language most tourists never learn exists. Many visitors arrive in Saint Lucia expecting to hear only English, but they are often surprised to discover that a second language plays a major role in everyday life. Known locally as Creole or Saint Lucian Creole French, this unique language developed over centuries through the interaction of African, French, and Caribbean cultures. Although English is the country's official language and is used in government, education, and business, Creole remains deeply rooted in the island's identity. In many homes, villages, and local communities, people still speak it regularly, especially during informal conversations and cultural celebrations. The language contains a fascinating blend of French vocabulary combined with African linguistic influences and its own distinct grammar. Its existence reflects the island's complex colonial history and the resilience of the people who preserved their cultural traditions despite centuries of foreign rule. For many years, some people viewed Creole as less prestigious than English, but attitudes have changed significantly. Today, there is growing pride in the language, and efforts are being made to preserve and promote it for future generations. Schools, radio stations, musicians, and cultural organizations increasingly use Creole to celebrate Saint Lucian heritage. Every year, the island also hosts events dedicated to Creole culture, language, music, and food. While many tourists leave Saint Lucia remembering the beaches and mountains, those who look a little deeper often discover that one of the island's greatest treasures is its living language, a powerful connection to its unique history and cultural identity. Fact 7. The secret rival flower societies. One of the most unusual cultural traditions in Saint Lucia revolves around two friendly rival organizations known as the flower societies. While many countries celebrate national holidays with parades or festivals, Saint Lucia has preserved a unique custom that dates back centuries and continues to fascinate visitors today. The two groups are known as the Rose Society and the Marguerite Society, each represented by a different flower, and each with its own songs, colors, symbols, traditions, and loyal supporters. Historians believe the societies originated during the colonial period when French cultural influences were especially strong on the island. Over time, the groups evolved into important social and cultural organizations that helped strengthen community bonds. Members often participate in elaborate celebrations featuring music, costumes, dancing, storytelling, and friendly competition. The rivalry is not hostile, but rather a source of pride and entertainment that brings communities together. Special feast days are held throughout the year, and participants eagerly prepare for these events months in advance. The celebrations offer a rare glimpse into traditions that have survived modernization and globalization. What makes the flower societies particularly remarkable is that they are unlike almost anything found elsewhere in the Caribbean. While tourists often focus on St. Lucia's beaches and natural beauty, these colorful cultural organizations reveal a completely different side of the island. They demonstrate how historical traditions can remain relevant in the modern world and continue to play an important role in shaping national identity. For many Saint Lucians, belonging to the Rose or Marguerite Society is not merely a hobby, but a meaningful connection to generations of family history and cultural heritage. Fact 8. The Caribbean music style, born here. When people think about Caribbean music, genres such as reggae, calypso, soca, or dancehall usually come to mind. However, Saint Lucia has created a musical style entirely its own, known as Dennery segment. Named after the fishing town of Dennery on the island's eastern coast, this energetic genre emerged during the early years of the 21st century and quickly became one of Saint Lucia's most distinctive cultural exports. Dennery segment combines elements of soca, dancehall, electronic beats, and traditional Caribbean rhythms to create a fast-paced sound designed for dancing and celebration. The music is often characterized by powerful bass lines, rapid percussion, catchy melodies, and lyrics performed in both English and Creole. What began as a local phenomenon soon spread across Saint Lucia and eventually reached neighboring Caribbean islands. Young artists embraced the genre because it allowed them to express a uniquely Saint Lucian identity rather than simply copying musical styles from larger countries. The rise of social media and online streaming platforms helped introduce the music to international audiences, giving local performers opportunities that previous generations could only dream about. Today, Dennery segment is heard at festivals, street parties, clubs, and cultural events throughout the island. For many Saint Lucians, it represents creativity, youth culture, and national pride. The genre demonstrates that even a small island nation can create something entirely original and influential. While Saint Lucia is often celebrated for its natural beauty, the success of Dennery segment proves that the country's cultural contributions are just as impressive as its landscapes, helping the island develop a unique voice within the wider Caribbean music scene. Fact 9. The highest mountain is not the famous Pitons. Ask most visitors about Saint Lucia's highest point, and many will confidently answer that it must be one of the island's famous Pitons. After all, the towering twin volcanic peaks dominate postcards, travel brochures, and social media photographs from across the country. Surprisingly, however, neither the Gros Piton nor the Petit Piton is actually the tallest mountain on the island. That distinction belongs to Mount Gimi, a lesser-known peak hidden within Saint Lucia's lush interior. Rising to approximately 2,600 feet above sea level, Mount Gimi stands higher than either of the iconic Pitons and is surrounded by dense rainforest, mist-covered ridges, and rich biodiversity. Unlike the Pitons, which attract large numbers of tourists each year, Mount Gimi remains relatively untouched and is visited mostly by adventurous hikers and nature enthusiasts. Reaching the summit requires navigating challenging trails through thick tropical vegetation, making the journey feel more like an expedition than a sightseeing trip. Along the way, hikers often encounter rare birds, colorful insects, towering trees, and spectacular views of the surrounding mountains. On clear days, the summit offers breathtaking panoramas stretching across much of the island. The fact that Saint Lucia's highest mountain is not its most famous one perfectly illustrates how much of the country's natural beauty remains overlooked by mainstream tourism. While the Pitons undoubtedly deserve their international reputation, Mount Gimi reminds us that some of the most remarkable places are often hidden away from the spotlight. For travelers willing to venture beyond the postcard images, Saint Lucia still holds plenty of surprises waiting to be discovered. Fact 10. The volcano that could power the entire island. Beneath Saint Lucia's lush rainforests, picturesque villages, and famous mountains lies an enormous source of energy that could play a major role in the country's future. The island was formed through volcanic activity millions of years ago, and signs of that geological power are still visible today. The most famous example is the Sulphur Springs area near Soufriere, often described as the world's only drive-in volcano. Visitors can see steaming vents, bubbling mud pools, and clouds of sulfur-rich vapor rising from the earth, clear evidence that volcanic heat remains active beneath the surface. While these features attract tourists from around the world, scientists and government planners see something even more valuable: geothermal energy. Geothermal power uses heat from underground to generate electricity, providing a renewable energy source that operates day and night, regardless of weather conditions. Studies suggest that Saint Lucia possesses enough geothermal potential to significantly reduce and possibly one day largely replace its dependence on imported fossil fuels. This could lower energy costs, improve energy security, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. For a small island nation that currently spends substantial amounts of money importing fuel, the economic benefits could be enormous. Several exploration projects have already examined how this underground heat could be harnessed safely and efficiently. Although large-scale geothermal production has not yet fully transformed the country, many experts believe it could become one of Saint Lucia's most important industries in the coming decades. In a remarkable twist, the same volcanic forces that created the island's dramatic landscapes may ultimately help power its future, turning an ancient geological legacy into a modern economic opportunity. Fact 11. A rainforest-covered nation. While Saint Lucia is often marketed as a beach destination, many people are surprised to learn that a large portion of the island is actually covered by forests and tropical wilderness. Away from the resorts and coastal towns, the interior of Saint Lucia is dominated by rugged mountains, deep valleys, and dense rainforest that remains remarkably well preserved. This green landscape is one of the reasons why the island looks so different from many other Caribbean destinations. Instead of being mostly flat and dry, Saint Lucia rises dramatically from the sea into a series of volcanic peaks covered with rich vegetation. The rainforest acts as a natural water reservoir, capturing moisture from passing clouds and supplying rivers, streams, and waterfalls throughout the island. These forests are home to an impressive variety of plant and animal species, including several that exist nowhere else on Earth. Colorful birds, rare reptiles, exotic flowers, and towering tropical trees thrive in this environment. The rainforest also plays an important role in protecting the island from erosion and helping regulate local temperatures. For hikers and nature lovers, the interior offers an entirely different experience from the beaches that dominate travel advertisements. Trails wind through cloud-covered mountains, hidden waterfalls appear around unexpected corners, and wildlife can often be heard long before it is seen. The contrast between the bustling coastline and the peaceful rainforest interior is one of Saint Lucia's most distinctive characteristics. In many ways, the island's forests are just as important to its identity as its famous beaches, providing both ecological value and some of the most spectacular scenery in the Caribbean. Fact 12. The airport with an indigenous name. Most international airports are named after political leaders, national heroes, or major cities, but Saint Lucia's largest airport tells a very different story. Located near the southern tip of the island, Huanora International Airport carries a name that predates European colonization by centuries. The word Huanora is believed to come from the island's indigenous inhabitants, the Amerindian peoples, who lived on Saint Lucia long before the arrival of European explorers. Although modern Saint Lucia has been shaped by British, French, African, and other cultural influences, the airport's name serves as a reminder that the island's history began long before colonial powers arrived. Every year, hundreds of thousands of travelers pass through the airport, often without realizing they are encountering a piece of indigenous heritage. The airport itself plays a crucial role in the country's economy, serving as the primary gateway for tourists arriving from North America, Europe, and other Caribbean nations. For many visitors, Huanora is their very first introduction to Saint Lucia. Over the years, the airport has undergone significant modernization to accommodate growing numbers of passengers and larger aircraft. Yet despite these developments, its historic name has remained unchanged. In a region where much indigenous history was lost during centuries of colonization, the continued use of the name Huanora carries special significance. It preserves a connection to the island's earliest known inhabitants and ensures that a small but important part of their legacy remains visible in everyday life. This makes the airport more than just a transportation hub. It is also a living reminder of Saint Lucia's deep and complex history. Fact 13. The Caribbean island with two different oceans. One of Saint Lucia's most overlooked geographical features is that the island is influenced by two very different bodies of water at the same time. On its western side lies the calm Caribbean Sea, while the eastern coastline faces the vast Atlantic Ocean. Although many people assume that all Caribbean islands experience the same marine conditions, Saint Lucia's location creates two distinctly different coastal environments. The western coast is generally known for its calmer waters, sheltered bays, and excellent conditions for swimming, snorkeling, sailing, and diving. This is where many of the island's most famous beaches, resorts, and cruise ship facilities are located. In contrast, the eastern coast is exposed to stronger Atlantic winds, larger waves, and more powerful ocean currents. As a result, this side of the island often feels much wilder and less developed. The difference can be striking even over relatively short distances. Visitors can spend the morning enjoying peaceful Caribbean waters and then travel across the island to witness dramatic Atlantic waves crashing against rugged cliffs. These contrasting conditions also influence local fishing traditions, marine ecosystems, weather patterns, and recreational activities. Surfers and adventure seekers are often drawn to the Atlantic side, while families and beachgoers frequently prefer the calmer Caribbean coast. The island's unique position between these two bodies of water contributes significantly to its biodiversity and natural beauty. It is one of the reasons Saint Lucia offers such a diverse range of landscapes despite its relatively small size. Few places in the Caribbean allow visitors to experience two such different ocean environments within a single day, making this geographical feature one of the island's most fascinating hidden characteristics. Saint Lucia may be famous for its beaches and luxury resorts, but as we've seen today, there is far more to this island than most people realize. From a nation named after a woman, to an island fought over 14 times, to two Nobel Prize winners sharing the same birthday, Saint Lucia is full of stories that sound almost unbelievable. Which fact surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed discovering these hidden sides of Saint Lucia, be sure to explore more fascinating countries with Andy Explores the World. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.